Hello guys, in today's video I will be judging the true difficulty of the Tower of True Skill. This video is split into a few different sections. 1. The raw difficulty, 2. Nerve control, and 3. Just reference, and then I will give my opinion. Let's get into it. This tower sits at 7.09 on the difficulty chart, and so even after it received a small nerf date, the difficulty never changed, and that's part of the reason why this is controversial. Especially on the floor 4 section, and they removed the jank from the final truss or ladder on floor 10. Some people do think this is a remorseless tower, and I can kind of see why that is, especially when I beat it, which was before the nerf date. But still, I feel like all the floors except floor 9 are like between low intense and maybe mid-high intense. But then floor 9 is just a huge difficulty spike, which is the only reason why this tower is even remorseless. Of course, there's also a few tricky sections like the fading blocks on floor 5, and that's absolutely atrocious long jump on floor 6. But overall, all the other floors aren't that bad. But floor 9, as you could see in old Thanos tower, the TOTS floor 9 crossing wasn't changed at all. All they did was remove the skips. And that's another topic that we need to discuss, because some people think that tower difficulty should be judged not including skips, but some people think skips matter in judging the difficulty of towers. Additionally, skips in this tower play a huge role in the difficulty, because there are absolutely tons of skips littered across the entire tower, which many people use to make it easier or to just make it shorter, which is also part of the reason why this tower is highly debated over the difficulty. Now, moving on. Nerves. This tower implements nerves in a very interesting way, because floors 1 to 4 aren't that bad, but once you reach around floor 7 or 8, the nerve starts to kick in, especially if you're beating this as a new hardest. Then you're really gonna feel nervous. But overall, nerves don't really affect this tower until you reach floor 9, and then eventually floor 10 is when you're gonna be super nervous. But also, this tower is super short, so nerves don't play as big as a role. It's only the difficulty that plays a part in the nerve control in this tower, not the length. Now I'm gonna judge it based on my experiences of other towers around this difficulty. So I've beaten a few bottom remorselesses, like Tower of Astral Fusion before it was removed, Tower of Beat Block Berserk, and the Tower of Extreme Dystopia. I will say this and Tower of Extreme Dystopia have completely different skill sets required to beat them, so you can't really judge the difficulty of either of them by looking at the difficulty of another one. Furthermore, the Tower of Extreme Dystopia also isn't a good tower for reference, because the last few floors are all over a soft lock, which means the gameplay is mostly intense throughout the whole tower. However, Tower of Astral Fusion and Tower of Beat Block Berserk are good towers to help you judge the difficulty of the Tower of True Skill, because they both test your purism skills just like the Tower of True Skill. And in my opinion, the Tower of Astral Fusion also might not be a good reference tower, because it is full of safety nets, which makes the gameplay harder. According to Adamir, beating Tower of Astral Fusion without safety nets would be extreme difficulty, so you really can't judge the difficulty based on that. But Tower of Beat Block Berserk is a perfect reference tower, because they're both short, they both test purism, and they both require nerve control, although Tower of Beat Block Berserk not as much as Tower of True Skill. If you look at some of the jumps in Tower of Beat Block Berserk, overall they're harder than the Tower of True Skill, except floor 9 on this tower, which is an exception. But almost every jump on TO Triple B is much harder than the jumps from floors 1 to 8 and floor 10 on Tower of True Skill. Maybe there's some tricky jumps on floor 7 on Tots, but overall Tots isn't that bad in the beginning, but the end only tests your nerves with a final outside that's easily failable. I myself failed that while I was grinding this as my first Remorseless, which was not a good experience because it's super unbalanced, but I will say it gave me a huge skill boost after beating it. I've also beaten some high intenses, mainly the Citadel of Corporate Enterprise, which I believe is high intense, and that tower tests length instead of draw skill, but there were still some jumps, especially on the floor 11 outside section, which were much harder than floors 1 to 8 on Tower of True Skill. And now to conclude, I'll give my personal difficulty of this tower. I believe that this tower is peak intense. I don't think it's quite the difficulty of Beat Block Berserk and Astral Fusion. I think that maybe before the floor 4 invisible section got nerfed, that it could have been Remorseless, but still probably not. But even if, floor 9 is still a beast of a floor and should be heavily practiced before even thinking about going from the start, unless of course you're soul crushing skill before you beat this, which is interesting. But just keep in mind that difficulty is subjective, so if you disagree with me, feel free. And that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. See you.